commercial before you get started. We'll have to interrupt. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to our once a month program. We've been privileged to bring this to you at no charge. We do accept donations by the front desk. There's a box for that. A couple of announcements before we get started. The Fun with Fiber class has changed their meeting time, meeting at 10 a.m. on the second Saturday now. This is a group of folks who are very interested in working with wool fibers and whatnot. I don't know what all they do, but I don't go there. Monday, we have a Clara's dinner. This is a group that we've been able to assemble once in a while at Clara's restaurant. The manager there has been very kind to us. The owner has been very kind to us about hosting the meal, and he rebates part of the cost back to the museum. That's on Monday night, 6 o'clock. If you wish a flyer on that, it's by the front door there on the glass counter. We also have a copy of our latest publication detailing what we're planning to do, what we've done, and other information in that. That's at the front also. We have these meetings, talks, signed up now for 10 months for next year again. So we're pretty well close to getting signed up for the whole year to bring you additional people of historical interest in Battle Creek. Today we're going to talk about a unique resident at the sanitarium, which I guess makes her a resident of Battle Creek also. This is Miss Sandy Ranger is going to speak about the person we just mentioned. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, first of all, thanks everybody for coming. I thought maybe about 10 people would here, but now I think there's 20. Hopefully I can relate some information about the sanitarium, the famous sanitarium. And thanks to, I don't see Kurt here, but he'll probably come in, Thornton. He did a nice write-up in the shopper. I appreciated that. And really thanks for the crew here that's trying to make a famous history in Battle Creek, because some of us need somewhere to put some of our stuff. Yeah. I want to start off by introducing my lovely models. My sister from Iowa, Marilyn Cole. My good friend Lynn Taylor from Battle Creek. And I have other models in there, but they have gotten tired of their ordeal. But thanks for coming, Shirley Sally. Okay, first of all, my mother was Hazel. I'll wait till you can sit up on front if you want to. There's one up by Dale too.
Yeah.
Jackie.
You can sit
That's
here.
a good friend of mine, Jackie.
Sit there. Marilyn wants to sit there. Marilyn, she's model.
Oh, Jackie. Jackie, my sister Marilyn Cole from Iowa. Lynn Taylor from Battle Creek. Yeah, I wanted to introduce you.
No, you're fine.
You're fine, Jackie. My mother's name was Hazel Mullett Minor. She worked at the sanitarium early in the 60s. She soon became Charlotte Dupont's private nurse. Charlotte was the daughter of Maurice Dupont, brother of Alfred Dupont, and everyone knows it's the famous Dupont family. Charlotte came to the sanitarium when she was about 20, in her late 20s to about 30. There's different information on that, isn't there, Sally? We couldn't find it. She had a nervous breakdown, probably from a few events that happened in her life. Her brother was killed in World War I. She was in love with a prince from another country, but the Duponts and the Prince family did not approve of the relationship, so they broke it off. And I think that would send a lot of people into depression right there. Her dad approved of the move to come to the world's best sanitarium, where he hoped after she received some help that he would be able to take her back out to the New York residence. But, however, Alfred and Maurice disagreed on the treatment for Charlotte. And after he tried to take her out, the kingpin of the family, Alfred, said no, she's staying in the best in the world, the Battle Creek Sanitarium. They never spoke after that. I used to go to the Willard Library and take out the history book relating to the Duponts. About 5 years ago, when I went there to look for the book, they said, oh, they discarded that.
Oh, no.
I couldn't believe it. And it was, Charlotte's name was in there and information about her. Not a lot, but a little bit. One would wonder how hard this would be on her. After, a big change. First of all, she was Roman Catholic, to be put in a Seventh-day Adventist facility. That would be hard on her. And we only knew her in her senior years and have no idea how things transformed when she was younger at the sanitarium, but after a while I guess she realized that's home. Some things that she liked to do with my mother was once a week they would go to the Hart Hotel for a meal. And she liked the formal white tablecloths and the special service that she would receive there. She did not eat in the dining room at the sanitarium. She had all of her meals brought to her in her 3-room suite there, which consisted of a bedroom, a living quarters, and a bathroom. We were there a few times. Shopping trips to Robinson department store, where she enjoyed the jewelry department. There's more of it at home. My mother always had her checkbook with her, and Charlotte could get whatever she wanted. Her clothes did not come from Robinson's. They never looked at the clothing at Robinson's. It was not a high-end store for clothing in their opinion. They all had to come from New York. And even her underwear had to come from New York. I worked downtown, and on my noon hour I would see them in the jewelry department. And I would walk up to them. They were always looking at the jewelry, never clothing. And she was always very proper in manners and seemed very pleasant and gracious for just the greeting. Other things that she liked to do, which she liked to, remember she didn't have TV, sew buttons on pieces of material. And they would all be matching. And I guess it took up a lot of her time. Some of it was just on paper, yeah. But one would wonder how she spent that many hours there. She didn't interact with other patients at the sanitarium. It was told to my mother that when she was younger, she liked to put on her sable fur coat and walk around the sand in the winter time. We've got some of her furs up here today. You can hang one up there if you want. And I just recently been told, she's not here by a classmate, that they would take her to different areas of Battle Creek, and one nurse on each side of her would walk for exercise. And they would tell the children in the neighborhood not to go up to her because she was the crazy lady. Isn't that sad? Because I think she would have enjoyed the greeting. That was their instructions, though. And my mother had the same instructions. She had a sister named Nesta that lived in New York. They must have been very close before Charlotte was confined to the Battle Creek Sanitarium. About every Saturday night, well, every Saturday night at 6 o'clock, the phone would ring. And my mother would make sure the TV was down and we were all quiet and nobody was to talk. And Nesta would call my mother to see if there's anything that Charlotte needs, anything at all. She would always apologize to my mother that the noisy that she was receiving on the other end was Frank Sinatra having another party because his suite was over top of hers in New York City. And my mother said she really couldn't hear it that much. Nesta would come to Battle Creek for a visit once a year at Christmas time, but no other relatives would visit her. That's no one, you know, that we know of. Charlotte was educated in the finest colleges in both the U.S. and Europe. She could speak 5 languages when she came to the sanitarium, and she was a concert pianist. She did die at, I don't know what happened to her obituary here. She died,
70.
must have fallen out. It's a little piece of paper. She died when she was 79 years old. Isn't that funny? Just disappeared. And her funeral was at St. Philip's Catholic Church, and we were there. We were asked to go, the family, and the only other people that were there were a few people from the sanitarium that would take care of her.
Wow.
And she, it was asked, it was very important to them that the casket be closed, and that she was taken to the plot in Delaware where the Duponts are all buried. And I would love to visit that someday. I would just love to go out there. So my sister and I might make a special trip to go out there. Who knows? Okay, I found it. Yeah, it just says Miss Charlotte Dupont was 79. Sanitarium died Monday in the sanitarium after a long illness. She was born in Tacoma, Washington, and she was the daughter of Maurice Dupont, brother of E.I. Dupont of the famous chemical company. She had been at the sanitarium since coming there in 1926. And she's survived by Miss Nesta in New York. And then it just goes on to tell about the, you know. And is there any questions, anybody? I may or may not be able to.
I just wondered what year she passed.
It was 1970. See, Ryan was born.
It wasn't in the 60s then?
No,
Okay.
it was in 70.
Because I worked at Robinson's in the 60s and I thought I could have been selling her jewelry and didn't know who she was.
Did you remember ever seeing her?
Well, you've got her picture.
Yeah.
I've got to check it because I might if I see the
Yeah,
picture.
might recognize me.
But I was selling jewelry. It was in 63.
I remember you being in there too.
Yeah.
Another classmate.
Maybe if we showed her a picture of your mom, Sandy.
Oh, it's right out there as you walk in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
And
she's
then
got
we
one
have
on
it
the
right
table
up
there,
here
too.
too.
I didn't
Yeah,
see it.
yeah. So, you know, I kind of like to hit on, the reason that this is kind of close to my heart is because, I also have a uncle in my own family that was, confined to the Iowa State Hospital at around the same age, 30 years old. And he was in college at Michigan State, but it was during the Depression. And really, they didn't know what to do with people back then that had nervous breakdowns. I wanted to share my story because my own son, Brian Paul Ranger, is a clinical therapist in Portland, Oregon. And he sees situations of people having nervous breakdowns and depression every day. And sometimes they need medication. And we certainly live in a better time for giving people help and not just putting them away in a hospital for life. Miss Charlotte was was not dangerous. She was not combative, and she was just very pleasant. And it's just a kind of a story of times that we do different things now, different. What were you going to say? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Somebody.
Question. How was Nesta related to her?
Sister.
Sister.
Only sister.
And
Younger.
And you said she was a concert pianist. Did she have a piano in the sand?
See, there's a lot of period that we don't know because Mother was only in her senior years. So maybe they let her play the piano there when she was younger.
My
And you know who
grandmother
might know is another classmate here, but I already called her and asked her, and Judy said that Judy's husband was in the custodian department for what, 30 years, Judy?
20.
Yeah, and she doesn't know too much more than I do, right, Judy? Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any mention of her mother, where the mother
No,
might
that's
be?
really surprising to us. In fact, even in the obituary, there's
Yeah.
none.
And was this a normal situation with the sand, that they would have apartments or just
It's
a
sweets.
few, or suites, or whatever you want to refer to? And they were set aside for the wealthy, or what?
I think, well, they had to been getting a lot of money from the Dupont
Oh, I'm
family.
sure they were.
Yeah. What were you
Was
gonna
that
say? Well,
commonplace?
Judy's gonna say something.
I've got a picture of when President Johnson was at the sanitarium. My husband was a guard there when he was in there. And he guarded the doors, and as President Johnson came to the sanitarium, to the stone building. And also I have Sand News, that they give out their little letter every week or every month. And it has all about all the different people that work there, and all about who had the building and everything. And my husband worked for Vanderveer. His name was, my memory's getting bad. Okay, Earl Vanderveer, he was the head of the maintenance there. And his wife was Joyce Vandermark. Mr. Vandermark used to be a supervisor there. And this is a pamphlet that they had for the newsletter. But this is a picture of when President Johnson came to the sanitarium. He was at the stone building.
Kind of neat.
And Ladybird.
Yeah, Lady Bird was there too. That's my son.
Why did the president visit? Excuse me, was he visiting someone in particular?
Oh, she's asking a question.
No, he came there for the election. This is in 1966. Yeah, he came there for the election.
I think a lot of people came there for short periods, but I think Charlotte was kind of an exception, that she spent almost all of her life there. And, yes? Uh-huh.
I was curious, in the newspaper, it made mention of the name Minor?
Yes, my father died in 1960, but then she married 9 years later, and that's when she became Mrs. Minor. But her name before that was Mullett.
Was that the same Minor as the castle in England by any way?
Excuse me, hang on for a second. I'm having trouble hearing, ma'am.
Okay,
Was-
you might want to
was-
turn around so she can hear you.
I was curious, if somebody, when the name Minor was in the newspaper, if anybody knew if that was the same Minor relatives as the castle that was in England. If that was,
Interesting, I don't know them.
if anybody knew.
We'll put Sally on the computer, she'll find out for us.
Sandy, was she buried at that Nemours cemetery in Delaware?
Yes, where they have plots for all, if you get your name Dupont, you get to go there, yeah, yeah. But I was disappointed that nobody from the family, there's cousins and relatives, especially then, that many years ago, but nobody showed. The lawyer that handled the estate came the day after she died and took what he wanted, because my mother was willed a special ring, but it was never found. But my mother was in the Dupont will. And back then, the amount was a substantial amount. Yeah.
She must not
They
have,
loved her. They loved my mother, the Dupont family.
but the family must not have visited, there must not have been much family visiting.
Never, I don't,
Never.
we've heard never, except the sister, Nesta, would come
Yeah.
at Christmas time.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, you know, it'd be a long trip because they didn't have airplanes. She'd have to get on the train and go to Chicago, and then from
Yeah.
Chicago to come here.
Yeah.
And although it's, in some of the letters, and you're free, the will's up here too, you're free to read any of the letters. In one of the letters, you know, it kind of tells the story a lot about what went on there. Yeah. But the will is up here too.
Maybe the stigma of the family at that time probably had a bearing.
Yeah, I don't think he
Because
can
of the
hear you,
fact- Well,
Carolyn.
probably a stigma of mental health, you know,
Yeah.
very notable family at that time, so let's
Exactly.
kind of move them somewhere and out of sight, out of mind.
Did you get Carolyn on there?
Did she get?
Because just stand up and then he can.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
But just the stigma
Right.
of mental health at that time.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're more, we're more, I don't know what the term would be, to understanding
Right,
now.
right.
That it doesn't have to be permanent.
True.
Yeah, at least that's what my son gets paid every day for, is to
Yes.
try to help people. And I asked him how he starts the conversation, and he says, well, I gotta find out what's bothering them first. So I let them talk for the majority of the time, and then I just make recommendations.
Right.
But, see, there might not have been any way of knowing if she really even saw a therapist, or if they were just interested in, I don't mean to offend anybody, some of their customs that they do at this, you know, the Seventh-day Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Seventh-day
Different.
Adventist.
Different.
Yeah. Uh-huh, yeah. Yeah, has everybody been through the village at the Advent, you know, by the Adventist Tabernacle? We just went through it just recently. It was really interesting. Go through the individual buildings, and then the one with the welcoming business, it's free too. The welcoming, it has a lot of Dr. Kellogg's equipment there that he believed in for lots of different reasons, you know, enemas every day and all that.
Coffee.
Coffee
enemas.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Are there regular tours of
We had one because we went with our Rose and Thistle Garden Club just 2 weeks ago, and but if you go there, they will give you a tour. They have people that are volunteers. Yeah, it's a nice thing in our community to keep the history of Battle Creek. Yeah.
Sandy, you should have a picture of that picture you took of the guy holding up the enema bag when we went on the
The Oak Cemetery.
Oak Cemetery tour. That
I'm
was
not supposed
funny.
to tell that, Sally.
Well, how about the high colonic? The high colonic machine.
Right. Well, that's what they have over there.
His grandmother, I used to take her up there and leave her so she could have the treatment.
Really?
Yeah. And his
Was it
grandmother
painful?
worked there
Was it
too.
painful?
Yeah. I don't know, it worked.
What?
No, his grandmother worked in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
What
the
was
name
the
of the
treatment? What did they do?
Clean the colon. That's everyday stuff.
I don't believe Dr. Kellogg was right in everything. I'm sorry to my opinion, but you know, that's what they did, and you just can't.
What's
Can't
the
figure
name of the
out.
book that you are missing, that you were talking about?
It
What's
was
the name
a
of it?
pretty big one about all different, the Kennedys, different famous families.
Oh,
in
I
our
just picked up
century.
a book
Uh-huh.
of the dynasty of
But if we ever go out east, I might be able to find one out there that tells a little bit about Charlotte. And we would just like to see a picture of her when she was younger, but we don't have anything until my mother came on the scene.
So how old was Charlotte when your mother started?
She would have been in her late 60s, yeah. Yeah. And my mother had a fondness for her. She was very protective of her, and she really developed a very loving relationship with her. Any other questions? Yeah, Donna?
Are you gonna hold up some of those dresses?
Oh, thank you, Donna. Well, the one, yeah, thanks for saying that, Donna. The one, I think this is really special. I've never seen anything like it, and believe me, it was Miss Charlotte Dupont. Where did she ever wear that? When she was sitting at the piano? Yeah.
Well, it might have gone over the outfit you're wearing. It's a jacket. No, it's a jacket over, I think. But of course, we figured she had something underneath.
This one about, what was it, about 12 years ago? You just remember?
Shirley wore that, didn't she?
Yeah, it's Shirley's work, but I also got Best of Show at the Calhoun County Fair for it. Not just first place, but Best of Show. And I asked Bernie, some of you know Bernie, it's got a hole in the back of it. He said, I don't care, it's that unusual. He liked the lace on it.
So what are some of the labels on the clothes, the makers?
Well, they're all taken out. A lot of them had her little name on the back of it. Can you see it from there?
Got it.
Because see, they would have to send these to cleaners.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you could take it back.
She was the sand.
Yeah, I love some of the nightwear. Some of them are in mint shape, like this one is. They're pretty.
love that.
So lacy like. You could almost wear that out. You wouldn't have to just wear that to sit in bed with it.
Yeah, but that's where she wore it, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Pretty color.
Yeah, the color's real unusual. And it's all lace underneath. Look at that.
Just like new.
Yeah, this one's real good. A lot of the nightwear.
Looks like it's
Sanding. Are these the kind of things that she wore every day?
Yeah, I can show you that.
There's her house dress.
That's a dress, not a nightgown.
No, she asked me what did she wear every day. Yeah, show me.
Oh, pretty. Oh, my goodness.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, every day, that would be an everyday dress. Maybe she'd take her to Robinson's in.
I love the collar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, none of them come from Battle Creek.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I love that one. That one's so cute. This is what she would wear every day. Yeah. I think they call them house coat or house dresses. Yeah, house dresses.
About 100 years ago.
This is one of my favorite ones. I wore this in.
That's pretty.
Yeah, it's just different, you know.
So the will gave all her clothes and everything to your mother?
Mother was given all of her possessions
Everything.
that was left after other people rummaged through them.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay, yeah.
You know, a lot of people going in and out of her room. But, yeah. We just went up there with big, you know, I remember waste paper, or kind of like laundry baskets, and gathered it all up.
Well, I was just thinking, you said none of her family came, so apparently was it people working at the sand that could come and just take what they wanted?
I was making light of that. I'm sure the good jewelry. I do have one giant diamond. I don't have it on today. And Marilyn was given on my sister. Where is she?
But you said your mother was given all of her belongings.
What was left, she was
Yeah,
given. But
interesting.
who knows how?
But if the family didn't come, then you figure, well,
And I think I have a lot of costume jewelry because it's not that valuable.
oh, it is now.
Oh, it's costume jewelry. Well, but I'm gonna come to you and find out.
Costume jewelry is the one.
Really? Some of it's really unusual too. Okay, show me.
She's going on the drill.
Didn't you see the
Stacy, this would look cute on you.
Sandy, didn't you see the attorney came after the woman died and took all the things about
No, he just took some. His wife wanted some of the cups and saucers, and I'm sure he maybe knew a good ring when he saw it. No, I'm not making light of it.
It wasn't like he came and took everything.
No.
They were
He
close
didn't
to
want
her.
this stuff.
Just the ruby.
No.
I mean,
Just the ruby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed that one, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it.
Lynn, anything here that you can think of?
This thing all the girls would wear one of these now. Yes, they look current.
I thought they wore those at night.
No, they probably did, but our girls would wear them to school.
Oh, really? This was Charlotte's, you know, you can see a pretty good label in there from New York. It's NESS, but there's no moths or anything. It's in mint shape. But I just think the inside is really pretty. But look how small it is. First I thought it was this small. There it is. Oh, there you go.
Cute. Absolutely cute, Lynn.
Goes with the dress. That's it. Yeah. This was quite
Look at that. That's something. Oh, boy. Oh, my.
I think Mr. Pont liked her not Kleenex, but napkin. Or Kleenex. Oh, yeah.
So everybody, I've got some for my mother. I mean, I had to have them. We never bought Kleenex. Wow.
I haven't added the these are hers. Couple little. Huh? Yeah, collar.
Yeah. Sable's a longer.
I just want to say thank you for treasuring it.
I didn't bring any of the trinkets.
No, but I mean, you know, because your mother passed away, and then you have her stuff, and you saw value in holding on to it, whereas other people might have said, hey, you know,
Oh, that's why I said nobody wanted the costume jewelry. That's why it was still left.
I know, but you could have discarded it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a discarder.
So thank you for doing that.
I just thought she was discard jewelry.
Yeah.
When I curled my hair this morning, I looked over at another dresser and I said, oh my gosh, the whole thing is filled with Dupont, you know, just little things to put your hat pins in and stuff like that. And then Marilyn says, well, let's take those, what do you call them? Oh, they're kind of like things you put on your dresser.
Table skirts.
Lamps.
Lamps.
And I said, no, I don't want to pack them. They're beautiful. They got the hang little drops on them. Yeah.
Somebody's wanting to know what kind of underwear.
I didn't bring it. Who wanted to know about the underwear? I actually have a pair at home. I didn't bring them.
She wanted to know about the.
Well, that's funny.
Were they fancy, Sandy?
Oh, they're pretty and they're in very good shape. Silky, like silky, not cotton. Yeah.
Anything else you want to know?
Yeah,
These are compacts.
Oh, wow. Oh, my.
Yep. She likes to shop.
Wow.
anything else to do.
Yeah, right.
Did she have any Did she have any art?
Well, those.
What's her name?
I should hold them up too.
What's that?
Gail, you want to hold one up?
What?
The artwork?
Oh, yeah.
See, people back there can't see it. I am. She missed her flight.
Yeah, those are very pretty.
These I have lining my stairway going upstairs and I love them. There's 4 of them. One of them had a name on it, but I don't know.
It's nothing she did.
No, she didn't do it, but, no, she wasn't doing it. The style of the postcards and things, I love them. Some of my favorite stuff. Did you see them, Lori? Did you see them?
Oh, yeah, those are pretty.
Your haircut and everything is
goes
just
right with
just
it.
right, perfect. The styles.
You look like a flower.
You look like a flower. Well, you say that.
I used to have to have a hairdo like that.
But these are all
You probably know. From our hairdo thing.
Hard to find the screens now. They're all, yeah.
But that was the style.
I think that's really nice, very nice.
I love your hat fashion show, it's great.
This looks like
Easter. Where do you wear that on Easter?
New York.
Put that back on. We want to take a picture. This one here?
Her haircut is just perfect for all of those things.
Very good.
The rose. Now turn around side.
Very nice.
Thank you. So let's see what this
Yeah, Lynn, model all the hats for me.
That's what I'm doing. They're all lightweight. They don't get heavy. Wear them all the time.
That's the Be careful now. Here's just some extra pieces of jewelry in here.
These are porcelain.
Even in her hair. Yeah. Because this is your name. My daughter-in-law is right here.
I had a case like this.
That this was your daughter?
Yeah.
Carolyn, this is my grandma Maria and my grandson. Ryan.
Okay.
I was in the athletic department, so I was always writing to
Give you this back.
his
Oh, she knows. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, I'm probably showing my daughter-in-law things she's never seen because they're all kind of his. But she'll inherit it someday. I don't know if I wear it, but it's so I can go to the races with it. Wedding? Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. This is a perfect model. I like this. Just some crosses and rings.
Wow. The big rings.
Pretty cool. Nice fashion show.
She wears those around her room.
Look how this. You can see her sitting out on a short chair.
I'd like to move that jewelry. I can see one pin up there that I think is an upper waist, which that's worth about $55.
We just showed you.
Probably her sister or probably out that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You and your daughters like to go shopping or pay for it.
This has been in the 20s.
Well, she didn't die until 79. Somewhere in the late, she was 26, so this probably was where she was confined for a while. And that's what I'm going to say, probably 30s and 40s anyway. She This is Lucy. Lucy? This is Lucy.
That's the history of it.
Lucy just travels. Right. Don't be bad. And then Courtney is out there, the white one. The white looks like Caesar dog.
This one right here. No, I'm curious about some of these because if they're Albert Whites, they are worth some bucks right now.
This, I think that's worth
That's
something.
jade.
Yeah, and look at this one. So I think,
This red one.
yeah.
Take that off.
And then,
Oh, that's been broken. Oh, I'm losing your pins.
oh, yeah, she has them. Just laid on the
I
table.
shouldn't be taking them
Oh,
off.
just laid on the table.
Oh, that's gonna fall. Well, there's some, as I say, that one could be, or either one of these red ones. It's hard to tell. You can see the back. Is this her picture?
Yes.
6th grade in Leon, and then 7th and 8th grade, and then song after 8th grade. Who cares? So that was our minority exposure. Yeah, so back then, girls wearing their white hats, and their little canvas tennis shoes, boys
I think I want to come up and look at the jewelry. You come up and look at
Get out of the sand and get out of that room.
Right.
Well, if any of these pins on the back, you know, every,
AccessVision. Your voice, your community.